when I was working in a restaurant that I became in contact with a little bit more diversity.
Right.
Which was kind of refreshing. But if you don't have that, being in a predominantly black state or city like that, you are lost, you know? You're kind of restricted. And coming out of my comfort zone like I did, it was motivating. It was motivation
Absolutely.
for me. It really was.
And I will second you on the West Virginia. I know most people, we're on our blog, on our page, The World of the Swirl, and all of that, and we get these very interesting questions where the ladies are asking about, people giving you funny looks, how do you react to that, or one of our friends was talking about how when she goes to a restaurant, she gets tired of the waitress or waiter assuming that the checks are separate. She and her husband are not together.
Correct.
She's in Tennessee too.
Right.
And there are several things that I've noticed, that I've seen, and I put in my head, because here in West Virginia, and I know you and I pal around a lot, people just don't do that to David and I. David and I are not the interracial couple that live in the White House on the corner. It's David and Adrienne.
Right.
Period. That's all they see. So I think people are often surprised that when you get to towns like Bridgeport, that we only have a population of 8,000 people, but most people aren't really honing in on race. Or at least the ones we're dealing with are not honing on race. They don't think any differently of my son. He's David and Adrienne's son.
Right.
That's the only way he's referred to. They don't refer to him any other way. So I do give props to at least Bridgeport, West Virginia. Now, I know all of West Virginia ain't like that, trust me.
Right.
But here in Harrison County, specifically in Bridgeport, it has been a good place to raise my son, who is biracial, and to live here, because it has been a pleasant experience for us.
And to add to that, Michelle, I just attended a wedding, and a friend of mine, she just got married to a white man, and just living here, everything they were accepted. Mm-hmm. That's the way I look at it. It is about accepting who you are. And that is what I took away from that wedding this weekend that I attended.
Well, now, both of you and Adrienne, said something that kind of stood out to me as far as the circles you move in and the people you're around. And Adrienne, even speaking of her neighbors and her neighborhood, do you think that had a lot to do with it too, your environment?
Well, I would say yes. I think the environment that we live in is a small town environment. They are more family. The neighborhoods are one of these things, like they look at the family that's moving in, not necessarily the color of the family. Mm-hmm. They are more interested in, they would prefer, if you're moving into their neighborhood, it's a mom and a dad and some kids and maybe a dog or something. They're looking at the whole
unit
thing.
Yeah.
So that's I would bet that has a lot to do with it. But fortunately for us, I believe that's the correct mindset. It's not. Now, I won't say we've had some funny moments. I've had some funny moments living here, because a lot of people, even though they don't make any big deal about David and I, sometimes people are very surprised when they see David and I, but they're not, it's just like, oh, it's not any big deal. We had an incident that was very funny. My family had come to visit me, and my nephew, now, either David was at work or he was sitting somewhere else in the house, but my nephew came to the front door when the mailman knocked on the door. Mm-hmm. And he handed my nephew the mail, because I think he was assuming that was my husband. And I just laughed. I went like, "What are you doing with my mail?" And he said, "Well, your mailman handed it to me." And I said, "Oh, you must not know the drill. Give me that." So we have incidents. We have funny things. We have the funny story that people at my job, or where David used to work, David and I worked together for many years. Right. And people that knew me, and they knew I had a husband, but they didn't quite know what he looked like. So when I
would step in and say, "Did you know that Adrienne's husband is white?" I didn't know.
What actually happened is one time a young lady, and I think I've told you the story before, but I haven't told a podcast audience. A young lady had come to the office just to chat, and she had never met my husband, and she wanted to meet him, and I knew he was at work, and I knew where he was. So I sent her over there to meet him.
Where is he?
And she walked all the way around the office, all the way. And then she came back, and she said, well, he's not there. And I said, yes, he is. So I walked with her and brought her over and said, this is my husband, David. And she just kind of looked at me, and then she made nice with David. And then we walked out, and then she just said, you didn't tell me. And I said, well, of course not. It's so much more fun this way. So it's like we get those moments, but those moments are always comical. They're not malicious.
Yeah.
They're not mean-spirited. It's normal, and we would laugh at those things.
I would have done the same thing if I was black and walked around in that office too, looking for David. I'm like, where is he?
Yeah, I mean, it's fair, and I have no issue with that. But I have a friend story before we move on, because I know Regina hates for me to tell this story, but I must tell it. Regina and I also have a mutual friend. Her closer friends to her than I am, but we are still friends. And she was having a party one day, and she invited me to come, and Regina and I went to the party, and I asked Regina, when I got back to work the next day, I asked Regina when she was sitting at her desk, I said, I noticed that your friend has these beautiful children. I said, I noticed that the kids, they look like they may be multicultural or biracial. And I said, are they? That was my question to Regina. Regina looked me dead in the eye and said, no, their father's Italian. I said, I just went, she actually said that, and there were two white guys standing there listening to it, and they both almost died. They were on the floor, so they went back, they said, wait a minute. Regina, what did you say? I said, Regina, they're biracial? Is the father white? And they said, what did Regina say? No, Regina said, no, the father was Italian. So, every time these guys see Regina, they just start laughing. And they start saying, well, we're Italian too, so,
Wow.
They'll say things like, when the revolution comes, we're going to be hanging with you. So, we have fun incidents like that. But I think it's because, again, like you had asked, it's the environment.
Yeah.
Nobody is there expecting anything different. They're just expecting us to be ourselves. And so we have a lot of fun, an absolute lot of fun. But Regina, I want to move on a little bit and ask you about your sons. How do you think they would feel about you dating a non-black man?
Well, as far as my family thinking about me dating a non-black man, I can tell you that my middle son said one time, Mama, maybe you need to date a white man. I guess he sees what I've had to deal with in the past, and that to him is not a bad idea.
Okay.
My oldest son, actually, he's dating a young lady who is white, and my youngest son, too, for that matter. But my sons interact very well with blacks and whites. Truly, it is whatever mom wants, and I think that's fair. They usually don't give me any riffraff about who I date.
Oh, that's good. That's good. And I had a question came to mind, too, when Adrienne was telling that story about the Italians. Sorry. Excuse me for laughing.
Oh, trust me, that's what everybody else did, so just laugh on.
Hey, Michelle, she won't let me live it down.
I'm not going to let you live it down after today.
Who says that? Oh, is their father white? No, he's Italian. Who says that?
I think the whole gym just stopped.
They did stop, Michelle. They stopped, and you know what else? She didn't even get a clue about what she said. She just stood there and looked at us. Wow.
But it brings to mind, I have this question too, Regina, especially, we were talking earlier about environment and just thought processes, and even earlier you touched on at some point in your life feeling restricted, like this is what I'm supposed to do, and not, not really considering anything else per se. Where would you say your interest, as far as your personal interest in this is something I can do, or this is something I should consider, when was it really peaked? Was there, you mentioned school, would you say that's the turning point, or what was it that happened in your own life and processes that kind of made you switch gears?
Well, I have to be, to thine own self be true, correct?
Yes, that's my motto for life.
To thine own self.
Yes.
True, because I think that my relationship that I've had, I feel that because based on tradition, I stayed with a black man, and because I felt that whatever obstacles came our way, I was going to be there. But as time went on, I didn't see the love reciprocated, and I felt that in my life there had to be more to it. There had to be more for me out there. Mm-hmm. And right now, because I have graduated already and what have you, I feel like I need to be a little bit more selective in my choice from here on out, because I feel that sometimes I feel like I have wasted a lot of my time. And some of the black males that I have had relationships with, they have a lot of mama drama. Even though some white men can have that, some have it more than others, but that has been the pool of men that I have gravitated to, I guess. But that was the moment. I was tired of the old, and I felt like I needed something newer.
Mm-hmm. And was that right about the time that you in graduating?
Graduating.
When you started, or was it more as you began to go to school, you began to realize, I'm bettering myself, I'm not wasting any more time with this. So as I began to better myself with my education, it was like the light went on for you then to say, like, you know what, I'm getting ready, I'm going to just open up my dating options.
Yeah, absolutely, Adrienne. I really do think that, you know what? I have to stop right here and pause, because this is like sure therapy.
Well, good.
This is really like sure therapy, and I wouldn't want anybody else to have to waste their time if they know that there's someone out there who is a white, Asian, or Latino that can make their life worthwhile to be with them, to death do your part. So be it. Mm-hmm. I'm not knocking you 1 minute when you're swirling or getting your swirl on. So I am really for it. I'm not against it. I might have been in the beginning because of how I grew up, that this is a forbidden fruit. But this is human nature. All the humans here are fruitful. And I feel that I can be fruitful in my options of who I want to date.
Gotcha.
That's very insightful, Regina. It is a good thing to think about. I got one last question, and I just want to know, in what you just said, as you said, you're opening up your dating options. Give us, podcasters that are listening, those that are listening to us, give us some of your qualifications. What are your standards? What are your bottom line? This isn't going to change. You have to do these things in order to at least even think about having a relationship with Regina Parker. What do you require?
I think for a good relationship, respect is important, but communication is high on my chart, because sometimes even I can get my signals mixed up in a minute. And Adrienne knows that. Talk about the Italian thing. But she's a good interpreter, and she can usually put things into perspective as to what is on my mind. And I like that about a person. And I like that they know that about me. Going into a relationship, you don't judge me before knowing about me for your own self, because folks can truly get things twisted. And I don't want anybody to ever get anything twisted about me, because I am genuinely down to earth. A relationship is about having fun and laughter and, oh, how